Interesting. All right, I think we went live. Did the thing pop up saying we're live?
It did.
Yeah.
Yes.
It says being live streamed. So
Okay, very good. So I'm just going to go ahead then and share screen and get us going here. Share. All right. And pull up our presentation, which is right here. All right, can you all see the presentation? We got the picture of Taylor smiling at us.
yes, ma'am.
Yay! All right. Thank you again, all of you, for being here. I'm Sarah Flint, the chair at the moment of the Creation Care team for the Florida Conference, and we're happy you are with us today. And we'd like to open with a prayer from Sarah Nussel, our very own Eco Gal.
Good morning. Good afternoon now. This prayer is from Season of Creation 2025 curriculum developed by the Climate Justice Movement of the United Methodist Church, and it's written by Pastor Rashinda Fairhurst. I put a link in the chat which will take you to that curriculum. Season of Creation is in September, and it's just a wonderful thing to share with your church. Let us pray. Creator God, in creating the earth, you created the whole universe. Your justice reaches into the deepest sea. Your faithfulness reaches beyond the highest clouds, and your love is stronger than the mountains. Sustainer God, your love is without price, intended for all living things, humans and animals both. You feed us, and you offer us drink from the spring of life, which is a gift beyond imagining. This same gift of pure water and natural bounty, this gift we have wasted with our greed, our pollution, and our faithlessness. Hear our cry and our confession. Hear our prayer raised to you. Forgiving God, our salvation, set our hearts right. We will be stewards as you intended. We will build up the bounty of your house. We will gather with our neighbors at your table. For under the shelter of your wings, the universe is made whole. All who gather here will drink from the river of joy and rejoice again in the spring of life. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Sarah. That was a great pick to start the meeting. Okay, it's been a minute since we have shared the mission of our group, and I thought it might be nice to say that again. The Florida Conference Creation Care Task Team is here to equip the local church with encouragement, training, and tools to support a thriving creation care ministry and to live into the call of being a steward of creation, loving our neighbors, and helping those in need by dedicating our time, talents, and gifts to advocating for the earth. So basically, we are here to help you at the local church to have thriving green teams, and anything we can do to help get you going and provide resources or brainstorm with you, we are happy to do that. And just to quickly review where we have our district representatives, Sarah just gave the opening prayer. She's in Northwest. I'm in the Northeast. We have Sanye in the Orlando area, East Central. Gulf Central, we have two, Reverend CJ and Candace. And then we are open in the Southwest and Southeast. So if you are in one of those districts, or if you know somebody in those districts who would be a good fit for us, and we really do have a good time on this team. It's a great group of people. Please, let us know if you have any suggestions for filling those spots. And we have our chair emeritus, Kara Fleischer, who serves as the campaign director for our Buckets of Hope campaign, when she will be giving us an update later. So if you're thinking, what on earth is Buckets of Hope? You are about to get a little bit of information about that at the end of the program. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Taylor Clem, who is the Extension Director in Nassau County, Florida, the county where I live. I already gave a little bit of his bio in the email that went out introducing him, but he's just an all-around wonderful person. I think I first encountered him giving a talk we have these wild night lectures locally, and he was talking about controlling pests on our property and all the things we can do to keep things in check without using herbicides and pesticides and things like that, and reminding us that sometimes a pest is not a pest. So, for example, bats or snakes, some of the creatures that people are often afraid of do so much good. So it was a great lecture, and I've kind of followed Taylor since then, and I'm so pleased that he is with us today. And he, in fact, is with us from the Poconos because he's on vacation. So I'm especially grateful that he's joining us today. So I'm going ahead and stopping my screen share, and Taylor, or I will make you a co-host so that you can share your screen.
All right.
Let's see. And where are you on here?
You all
You got it
should be
already.
able to see it, maybe?
Perfect.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for inviting me, and I'm honored to be able to come and speak with you all. Because in Nassau County, we have our county extension services. And so today I want to present to you and speak to you all about what extension services are, because I think it's a valuable, it gives value to our communities all throughout the entire state. So I want to talk a little about what those resources are and how you all could potentially utilize extension in achieving your mission. So I want to ask you all though, because this is a big question, and you can't put your thoughts in the chat box, but I want to ask this question is, what is the cooperative extension system? Do you all know? It's okay. You can say no, I do not. And I know some of you know because my parents are in here today because they're part of Creation Care. So, but also I know that we have a Master Gardener volunteer from South Florida with us, so they're aware. But do y'all know what cooperative extension system is, or also known as cooperative extension services? Oops. That's a big question. So most of the time people don't know, and that's okay. That's okay. You don't need to know. Um, well, not everybody does know. And I think it's going to be important because, despite its term, it provides a valuable resource to everybody within the state, but as well as it helps contribute to some major impacts across the state of Florida, but also at a national and international level. So to kind of briefly talk about what extension is, it is essentially it is a partnership between both federal, state, and local resources, but it is defined so cooperative extension services empowers farmers, ranchers, and communities of all sizes to meet the challenges they face, adapt to the changing technology, improve nutrition and food safety, prepare for and respond to emergencies, and protect our environment. And we do this, we're actually funded by federal government through the USDA, and we are housed within NIFA, so the National Institute of Food and Agriculture. And then we are part of the land grant system. So land grant universities, where we have our academic departments, experiment stations, and cooperative extension offices. And as cooperative extension offices, we are present in every county in the state of Florida. But it's also important to note that not every state has the same structure that we do here in Florida. So if you go to other states, extension exists, but it may not be 100% the same organization. But nonetheless, we have our local group. And again, our goal is to meet the challenges that our communities face. And essentially, how do we make sure that we're responding to that with research-based information? So being that extension is part of our land grant systems, I want to talk a little bit about what the land grant system is. So land grant system or land grant universities were actually established in 1862 as part of the Morrill Act. And that set up land or properties within states to create these different universities. And there's a couple different acts that existed that kind of established different universities at different times. But in the state of Florida, we have two land grant institutes. We have the University of Florida as well as Florida A&M University. So both of them are land grant universities, and extension, or that cooperative extension system, is part of it. And in 1887, the Hatch Act established experiment stations as part of land grant universities, and the 1914 Smith-Lever Act created the cooperative extension system to provide teaching, research, and extension programming to our communities to meet our communities' changing needs. So looking specifically at the Florida Cooperative Extension Services, we have our vision, and it is to be a leading provider of research-based solutions. So research-based is going to be very important. So everything that we do with an extension, all of our recommendations have to be research-based. Through our different research that's happening at the universities, within land-grant universities, not just at the University of Florida and Florida A&M, but across the nation as well as internationally, we're looking at how that information, that research-based information, empowers individuals, families, and communities to improve their quality of life while creating a better tomorrow. So for us specifically, creating a better tomorrow for all Floridians. And our mission is Florida Cooperative Extension engages with individuals, families, and partners with communities, provide quality, relevant education, and research-based expertise to foster healthy people, a resilient environment, and a strong economy. And some of the tools or the facilities that we have to do that is not just what we have on our campuses, but we also have our county extension offices, which are present in every single county throughout the state. And at those individual county extension office, you'll have extension agents, we'll have staff, and as well as our different volunteers. We also have research and education centers, research and demonstration sites, and 4-H summer camps. But ultimately, what we do in extension comes down to meeting our community's needs, or meeting Florida's needs. And our goal is, what are the needs of today? How do we address those needs of tomorrow with that research-based information? So we work a lot with our communities, not only to provide that information or that research-based information, but to also learn what are those big needs. The needs that we have, the needs that we exist throughout the state. We're constantly trying to learn and have a better understanding of them, because that is going to allow us to have a better understanding of what we need to do research on with the land grant universities. So then we can make sure that we're getting that information out to our communities the best way to address those needs. So with the University of Florida and Florida A&M, we created actually our what we call the pathway to creating engagement through innovation and excellence. So this is our statewide needs assessment. And then it helps provide our statewide programs, or helps define our statewide programs. And think of it as a strategic plan. This strategic plan, we have 7 different initiatives, and they do define everything that we do within extension for in Florida. So they are increasing the sustainability, profitability, and competitiveness of agricultural and horticultural enterprises. So traditionally, a lot of people think about extension, they do think of agriculture, but extension is much broader than that, which we'll talk a little bit about. This other initiatives include enhancing and protecting water quality, quantity, and supply, enhancing and conserving Florida's natural resources and environmental quality, creating sustainable urban and suburban communities, improving individual family and community health, strengthening urban and rural community resources and economic development, and preparing youth to be responsible citizens and productive members of the workforce. So we use these 7 initiatives to define everything that we do. Now, of course, these are very broad. So every single county office, we actually have advisory groups where we try to make sure that we're getting the nuances of these statewide needs to make sure that we're curating our specific extension programs within our communities. And by doing so, we've created in the state this is very general, major program areas. So we have like our horticulture program, and within horticulture extension program, we're working with our master gardener volunteers, which is a huge component of our extension services. That volunteer group helps get more information out to our communities. But we also have our residents that we work with. So residents are one who learns, like, how do I best maintain my lawn, landscape, and troubleshoot maintenance? And then we're also working with community associations. So if you live within an HOA and you may have property management companies, et cetera, we're trying to work more with those boards, those community decision makers on how they can best manage their properties. as well as we're working with green industry professionals. So anybody that you can hire within the green industry, we work with certifications and trainings, as well as we're starting to work more with builders and developers on how do we create and plan and develop more sustainable or Florida friendly, what we like to say, communities. So that's just the horticulture program. We also have our major 4-H youth developments. So that's working with youth and those adult volunteers to help make sure that we're producing or helping make good humans. Trying to train youth, today's youth for tomorrow's leaders through different training programs, different club activities, summer camps, but it all comes back to preparing those youth for their careers or for their just professional development as they age and grow older. Our other major programs is our family consumer sciences. So that really works with our residents for adults and senior citizens, as well as some like our food industry professionals. But ultimately, some of the programs that we can do, or some that we're seeing specifically here in Nassau or in Nassau County, is we do a lot of work about healthy living, healthy active lifestyles. We also do a lot of work about tax assistance, Medicare, Medicaid, and working with a lot of just Nassau County residents or residents within our communities to make sure that we're making those healthy, appropriate decisions. So we're creating a community of health, helping reduce economic costs for things like healthcare, et cetera. And then one of our other major program areas is our agriculture and natural resources. So it really works with agricultural producers, land managers, residents, or different conservation groups, including our Master Naturalist, which is a group of educated volunteers that do a lot of work within natural resource management. So again, the goal within like these major programming is help make ag producers essentially make more with less or produce more with less. Producing in agriculture is incredibly expensive. So we're trying to make sure that we're staying competitive through our research and what are the best management practices agricultural producers can adopt to make sure they're reducing their inputs such as fertilizers, water, pesticides, etc. So then we can have a competitive market be competitive within a global market, which is very tough to do. So we're working a lot with those ag producers to make sure that they have the best foot forward to be successful, because in the state, one of our biggest industries is tourism as well as agriculture. So it's really important that we work with our ag industry to make sure that they're successful, and our extension programming does a lot of work with them to make sure that they can be successful. So this is a big snapshot of what we're doing in our major program areas. Now, again, when you go county to county, it can be varies. There can be more niche agents essentially that are trying to target very specific localized needs. But from a very broad perspective, we're really looking at that horticulture, agriculture, natural resource, family consumer science, and 4-H youth development. But I always like to challenge ourselves is, how do we know we're being successful? So when we think about in cooperative extension, what is success look like? What are those impacts? So when we look at our extension programming, we look for 3 main indicators: social, economic, and environmental impacts. And that is essentially the 3-legged stool of sustainability. In order to be considered sustainable or to create these resilient communities, you need to consider that social, economic, and environmental impacts. And if you focus on one specific tenet of that sustainability, your stool will fall over essentially. So how do we balance that? How do we understand our true impacts? And one of the frameworks that some of us use within extension is called the Community Capitals Framework. And this is a great tool that we use within extension, as well as a lot of other community groups can use to kind of figure out how are we leading to the most resilient, impactful, successful communities that we work with. And this Community Capitals Framework is a great structure to really think about how we're creating and thinking about our outreach programming. So some of the questions that we sometimes like to ask is, how do we create long-term impacts throughout our communities? And communities are multidimensional. So how do we address challenging changes within communities? It is difficult. It is very difficult. You know, if we're thinking about those impacts from a statewide level or even a localized level, it can get very difficult to understand. or it can get very complicated very quickly. But one of the quotes about the community capitals framework that I really like is, the lifeblood of any community can be linked to the presence and strength of 7 community capitals, or resources that can be invested or tapped for the purpose of promotion, the long-term wealth of communities. So this is that community capitals framework. The community capitals framework, we have these 7 different tenets. It's all focused around vital economy, social inclusion, and healthy ecosystems. So that goes back to that social, economic, and environmental impacts of our programs. You know, we cannot expect to invest into every capital simultaneously. It's not possible, and there's no one-size-fits-all solution that allows us to focus on these different capitals. But pursuing positive change in one type of capital can create opportunities for improvements in other community capitals. So having awareness to these different capitals can help improve and lead to that social, economic, environmental development within our communities, or that community resiliency. So these 7 tenets are focusing on like our natural world, what's happening within the natural world, and how do our programming impact those? Think about those cultural significance. So what's happening culturally in the communities that we build? There's our human capitals, our social capitals, as well as political, financial, and built capital. So when we're thinking about what is our outreach, you know, I might have an extension program that really focuses on that natural and that built environment, but I may have another extension program that might focus more on that financial and social and human capitals, to make sure that I'm trying to balance and create a more impactful community, or having a broader impact with my extension programming. And this is kind of a structure a lot of agents are using, especially when we're trying to think about community resource development. And this isn't just something that we can use with an extension. This is something that any community group can use when trying to think, plan, and even target maybe different stakeholder groups to form different partnerships with, in order to have successful programming or outreach activities. So when we think about this extension in community capitals, it's really important that we have this big, broad list of problems, issues, and needs that affect us statewide, all the way down to the community level and to the individual level. But with local groups such as yourselves, County Extension, we have the ability to partner and work together to help kind of reinforce these different community capitals, to help Floridians, stakeholder groups, or other communities get to this more vital economy, so that's more social inclusive, and helps promote healthy ecosystems. So that's one of the benefits. You know, when we think about what is cooperative extension, our goal is to address our statewide needs. And we are part of that land grant mission and land grant university. And we're incredibly large in the breadth of work that we do. And we're always looking for different groups, or different stakeholder groups, or local organizations that help not only support our mission, but are also helping support our community's needs. And by focusing on that natural, cultural, human, social, political, financial, and built capitals, you know, we have the ability to overcome a lot of these different needs and these different problems into the future. So it's important that not just thinking about, you know, us in Nassau County, but remember, we're statewide. We're present in every single county across the state. We have 12 different research centers. We have 6 different research and demonstration sites, and then we have our 4-H camps, and we have our county extension offices. So I want you to be very aware of what county are you in, where is your county extension office, and maybe how can you, in your work that you're doing with Creation Care or your local groups, how can you partner with Extension to help meet these needs? Because we need you all. And we know that through partnership, we have the ability to have a more impactful outreach and programming to lead to a more successful Florida for everybody. So I think, you know, because of the time, that brings me up to the end of my presentation, and I do have some moments available for some questions if anybody has any. So thank you all so much. And hopefully now you'll have a better understanding of what cooperative extension system or the cooperative extension services are.
Yeah, that was very, very good. Thank you so much for going through that. And it definitely is more than I realized. And probably a lot of people are feeling the same way. And I'll go ahead and start with a couple of questions that popped into my head while other people think about their questions. And one is kind of what you ended with, that there are ways that churches could partner with extension offices, and I saw the idea of like demo sites coming up and things like that. And I wondered if you had any specific ideas of how we can go back and forth between churches and extension offices and help one another.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So one of the things that we have to do is we have our civil rights requirements. And our civil rights requirements, and this is kind of like the low-hanging fruit. We're always looking for what's the low-hanging fruit that we can have the biggest impact. And our civil rights requirement, mandated through USDA and NIFA, is that we have to make sure that our extension program is meeting our community, not just one specific demographic of our community. So part of that is showing the diversity of our extension programming. And as a county extension director, one of the things I really try to support with our other agents is how, we can reach out to faith-based organizations, because they have, I imagine how faith-based organizations, or they do have great networking and communication within the community that can allow us to better get in contact with underserved or hard to reach populations within our communities. And that takes essentially that work out of our small office, because we can rely on our partners to help get to those community members, because we want to make sure that we're meeting everybody's needs, not just one group's needs. And we do know that a lot of our faith-based organizations are a great tool to help get to those underserved audiences.
Taylor, I have a couple of questions. Have you ever heard of a group called Carbon Cowboys?
I have not. I'm very curious.
It's a regenerative movement in agriculture that highlights farmers who are working with nature to improve soil health and mitigate climate change.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I've been following them on Facebook, but you don't know if there are any groups like that in Florida?
I'd have to double check. So in Nassau County, our Ag and Natural Resource agent, Dave Abear, he works a lot with regenerative agriculture. So we actually have a lot of agricultural extension agents that their focus, like Dave is one of them, focuses on soil health. It's like, if we work on regenerative agricultural practices, we work on different regenerative practices to really focus on soil health, agricultural production will follow. So he does a lot of things with soil health, nutrition management, composting. Now, Sarah, you've probably seen all of Dave's composting programs he does around the community, but so we have those resources within Extension, but I cannot think of anybody off the top of my head that is outside of Extension that's specifically focusing on regenerative agriculture. But I do know if I was talking to Dave, he would probably give me a list of 100 people.
Yeah. Dave's composting workshops are awesome. And it's so funny, Sarah thought about regenerative agriculture too, because I was thinking about that movie Common Ground that came out a couple of years ago. And one of the things they really explored, which I wonder how it impacts you, is how land grant universities often are getting grants from like chemical companies and things like that, and that kind of conflict of interest and how much that impacts you. But I'm really thrilled to hear that there is a lot of regenerative agriculture going on around us.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that is a common concern about where funding is coming from for different research opportunities. And one of the things I think is incredibly important is, all of our research has to go through ethic training, as well as disclosure requirements on where funding is coming from. And I think that adds a lot of level of transparency to that. And then also a lot of times when it seems like there's a conflict of interest in research, yeah, we can see that research kind of pop up. It's like, oh, they're getting money from specific companies, et cetera. But that is one small percent of our total research dollars that we do get. A lot of it is coming from like public funding or other research-based institutions, et cetera. So, but you're 100% right. And I think that level of transparency that we try to build for ourselves does help.
That's really great, because the movie maybe was a little unfair in how they painted it, hearing you say that. So that does definitely make me feel a little bit better. And I'm gonna go ahead and take us out of the screen sharing view, or I don't
Oh
know,
yeah,
or if you
I'll
can do
stop my
that.
share. Oop,
I had
yeah,
a request.
that's
Let's go.
easier.
There was one question in the chat box
I-
asking whether the funding had remained the same.
Yeah, speaking of funding, I was just gonna get to that. Thank you so much, Yvonne. You know, with all of the bill that just got passed and everything, are you expecting an impact?
Yes and no. So we are going to be seeing some federal dollar impacts because we get funding from both federal appropriations through USDA and NIFA, as well as we get a lot of appropriated dollars, a lot of appropriated dollars through the state as well. So we are going to see some impacts from the federal appropriation dollars of the new bill. But the deans with the university have been incredibly transparent on, what those impacts are. And luckily, currently it's just going to have an impact on some research that's being done, not all. And the biggest thing was we're able to retain people. That's their biggest concern, is making sure that we can retain people. And they've been very transparent about their methodology in hopes to make sure that we can weather whatever storm it might be. But currently, though, when we're comparing, budget impacts, from my perspective, what we're seeing is COVID had a much bigger financial impact to the land grant university than the current appropriated dollars, but we're still seeing what we get from the state, and we're not too concerned right now. So, but that is a great question, because we do get that a lot.
Yeah, that is really good news. It's an interesting time, and and I know, I don't want to get you in trouble, but even with straddling that line of talking about climate change, and all our zones just changed recently, things like that, I would imagine it's a tricky time for you.
Yeah, I have to dance questions a lot.
Yeah.
So, but I do think it's important because, when we're really thinking about the mission of Extension and our goals research-based information. So we do not have the ability or capacity to say anything that is that cannot be supported with science. So if I don't have research that supports it, let alone relevant recent research, we cannot give those recommendations, because there are a lot of times where you have this cognitive dissonance that occurs because your belief system is being challenged by what science is saying, and that's really difficult. That can be very difficult,
Yeah, for sure. We appreciate what you do. Do we have like time for maybe one more question if anybody has one? I'm not seeing anyone. Let's see. I think we're good.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you so much. If you want to stick around with us for a few more minutes, we'd love to have you stay, but I also don't want you to feel like you have to. But we are very, very, very grateful to you for taking time out of your vacation to be with us. And this was really informative. I think there's just so much more going on. I'm hoping everybody's inspired to now run out and find your extension office and see how you can collaborate.
Absolutely. And again, Sarah, I appreciate the invitation, and I appreciate being able to come and share our mission with the Cooperative Extension Services with you all. And again, it's not just within the state of Florida. We're throughout the entire country, and even have an international presence with other universities. So, if you're doing work with other states, think about how Extension can be a partner within the work that you do. So thank you all so much for letting me come in here and speak on this behalf.
That's awesome. Oh, we have a raised hand before I let you go. Let me let Ray talk here. You're muted, Ray.
Yeah, I was wondering, are you considering like changing language of the words that we use? I mean, I've noticed I'm a green team, which is a secular, but a church I call Creation Care. This is kind of like a crossover between the two, but it kind of addresses the people. And in the political environment that we are now, with the governor saying, they trigger the word climate as a trigger word now. And so instead of calling this is climate change, this is extreme weather events and things like that. So is the Creation Care team also considering the language changes that we may need to use when we're addressing different people groups? Just a
Yeah, and I
question.
don't know if you want to address that first, Taylor, from your perspective of how you do your work.
Yeah. So as part of like, I mean, some of you are probably have been educators, you are educators. But one of the major things that we do as part of our training is who's your audience. Know who your audience is. Now, of course, there's certain terms that we are not able to use, but through creative terminology and verbiage, you can communicate the same exact message to your audiences when you're trying to think about the problem through the lens that they see it.
Mhm.
So a lot of times I try to think about what is the messaging that needs to occur to achieve the outcome. So therefore, I will think about what do I need to say that can achieve that same outcome that's more specific to my audience. And a very simple example is talking about like water conservation. So if I'm talking to one group, I can say it's important to consider water conservation practices within your landscape because as Floridians, we need to save water because water is important for our environment and our ecosystem. There are a lot of people that's not going to have the same resonating message. So I may say something similar rather than saying it's important for Florida's water resources. I may end up saying it's important because it can help reduce water use and then save us money.
Mm.
So it's like same outcome, different message. So and then same thing is like it's better for our community. So it's like for your target audience, what do they see that value in, and how can we make sure that we're putting our messaging in such a way where they see value in it to lead to that specific outcome or behavior change that we're looking for. So I wouldn't necessarily say change the verbiage, but more is who's your audience and how can we make sure that we're communicating most effective with them, because there are a lot of just key terms. The minute you say it, they stop listening to you. So having awareness of that will make you a better communicator to these different audiences.
Mhm. That's fantastic. And to elaborate on that, everybody, if you haven't read it yet, read Saving Us by Dr. Catherine Hayhoe. She tells you about communicating about all of these issues that we're working with every day. And her advice is very similar, about connecting with whoever you're talking with and finding that common ground, the thing you both care about, and taking it from there. And I find in the church environment, just always bringing it back to theology. I've had people just say straight up they don't believe in climate change. And I say, you know what? You don't have to. Let's talk about the Bible for a minute. And then I go back through, that theological case for caring about the natural world. And then, oh, yeah, well, I do care about all those things. Like, okay, well, then we want to do the same things. So I think trying to avoid those trigger words is really, really helpful. Sometimes you just can't help it. But if you try to avoid the trigger words, you're going to have much more success in connecting with people. All right. I think we better move on, or we're not going to make it to the end of the program. I want to make sure we get to all of the parts. So thank you again, Dr. Clem, and enjoy the rest of your vacation.
Absolutely. Thank you all.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and share again because I have a slide from Sarah for the green product. Okay, we got through Q&A. All right, here we go. Sarah, tell us about why you're sharing the service berry with us.
Yes, I've shared the cow pots. I've shared the building blocks made out of recycled plastic. I've shared the electronic lawn mowers. I mean, the list goes on. There's the recycled toilet paper called Who Gives a Crap? Now it's a book. This book, The Service Berry by Robin Wall Kimmerer, is the foundation for Season of Creation, which is celebrated in September. And the climate justice movement of the United Methodist Church has developed a wonderful set of materials for us to use in worship. Now, I realize not everyone in here is in charge of worship. I am at my church, and they let me have a creation care chat every Sunday. So I'm like, what am I going to do this Sunday? But this wonderful little book is just a gem. And what our brothers and sisters at Climate Justice Movement have done with it is amazing. I'm going to read a little bit from the book because I was going to send everybody on my team a copy, and Sarah said she's bought 10 copies, so I'm not going to buy her one. But it's really worth it. Just if you can't get anybody in your church fired up, just buy it yourself. Here we go. Abundance is created by recycling, by reciprocity. This recycling proceeds at different paces. Sometimes it is as quick as minutes, like molecules of phosphorus dancing between water and a spinning cell of virid green alga. That alga takes up the phosphorus into its body, which is eaten by zooplankton a few minutes later, and they excrete the mineral back into the water where another alga is happy to have it. Other cycles proceed more slowly. Sometimes the minerals get squirreled away in long-term storage, like nitrogen immobilized in a tree trunk for 300 years, but it always comes back into circulation. The juice that bursts from these berries was rain just last week and is already on its way back to the clouds. These processes are the models for principles of a circular economy, in which there is no such waste, only starting materials. Abundance is fueled by constantly circulating materials, not wasting. Okay, I'm going to skip to the end. She talks a lot about the maternal gift economy. We think about what we give our children when they're born, mothers from the breast. And I've always, this is not in her book, but I always thought about this as just amazing. Animal husbandry would not exist without maternal love. You would not have herds of cows, pigs, horses, chickens, goats. None of those things would happen if a mother did not love her babies. Mothers do not sell their milk to their babies. It is a pure gift so that life can continue. The currency of this economy is the flow of gratitude, the flow of love, literally in support of life. By analogy, can the sustenance from the breast of Mother Earth be understood as a maternal gift economy? These feminist thinkers argue that giving and taking in this sense are a fundamental way of caring for each other without the intervention of states or markets. Scholars like Mickey Cashton are exploring how the philosophy and practice of a maternal gift economy might move social organization toward justice and sustainability. If the sun is the source of flow in the economy of nature, what is the sun of a human gift economy? The source that constantly replenishes the flow of gifts. Maybe it is love.
Mhm.
Wonderful book. The link is in the chat. It will take you to the curriculum for September. Click on it, look, read it. It's mind-boggling. The prayer I prayed is from there. It's just a wonderful, wonderful resource, and we can get our churches fired up for creation care. Amen.
Mhm. It is a great one. And the reason I have 10 copies is I was handing it out to everyone, including my pastors. So it's a good one. All right, I'm going to stop sharing so Yvonne can go ahead and share her slides. Let me make sure that you are a co-host. All right. You should be able to share now, Yvonne.
All right. Well, we chose this as the topic for this month, and y'all probably have read a lot of articles about alligator Alcatraz.
It's not showing yet, okay? The screen,
Oh,
did you
it's not showing. I got it up on my screen.
hit share at the bottom of the Zoom screen?
Okay, hold on. This is a learning.
I can relate.
Where am
We'll just give you a minute and I'm
I?
gonna,
Okay, hit
okay,
share at the bottom.
yeah, that should do it.
Now it's showing lots of screens.
still taking you through. I was going to jump ahead a little bit while Yvonne is working on that. In the announcements,
Okay,
okay, are you good? We're still not seeing it though.
you're not seeing it?
No.
Let me hit this one button.
Okay, there. It's showing now. There it
Okay,
is. Good job.
okay. So this is the topic we chose, and you're probably reading a lot about it in the paper. I am. There's different reasons to be opposed to this. You know, the justice of it, the how they're running it. Some people feel like DeSantis did this because he was getting so much bad press about Florida Hope, you know, and that was affecting him and his attorney general. But we're going to address it from more the environmental side, and I've read different articles, and this is what the experts are saying. First, they're supposed to do an environmental review. That's federal law. They didn't do it. They claimed it was an emergency, so they bypassed that. The experts are saying that it's going to pollute sensitive waters. It's going to have a negative impact on native animals, some that's on the endangered species list. We have an American crocodile that's on the list, West Indian manatee, and the Florida panther. And one thing that really aggravates me is we've already spent billions of dollars trying to repair the Everglades, and now we're doing something to harm it. So it's just like we often throw away money in this country, I feel like. There is a lawsuit that was filed by the Friends of the Everglades and the Center for Biological Diversity. So you can go out to their site. Let me go to the next screen. Friends of the Everglades has a petition. You know, it's kind of like the petition we've done with the United Methodist Church, where you have to put in your contact information. They have a sample letters on the next page. Of course, they always ask you to personalize it. But there is a way to express your opinion that you're opposed to this detention center being set up in the Everglades. And I did see one photo. It had one dump truck after another. They were all lined up. So that to me shows this is definitely going to have an impact on the Everglades.
I was going to add that the Miccosukee tribe has now joined that litigation.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Oh, good. Good. Thank you so much for sharing this, Yvonne. It is such a important issue. And like you said, there's so many things that, well, I personally feel are very wrong about it. But to even look just from the environmental perspective, there's so many reasons why this shouldn't be happening. So this helps us then to have a way to share that information. So thank you. All right. Okay, she's done sharing, and I believe our next stop on the program is the Buckets of Hope update. If Kara wants to go ahead and tell us what's happening with the buckets.
Thank you. Yes, well, it just continues to be a really fun project that a lot of churches are doing. So thank you so much if you have already taken it on, and I just have a little bit of information here to share. Let me back this up just a bit. So just as a reminder, if you don't know what Buckets of Hope is, this is our conference-wide campaign to make 5,000 flood buckets to help our neighbors during hurricane season. We use about 5,000 buckets for one storm. So we're trying to get churches all across our conference to commit to making whatever amount of buckets they can make. My church is making 130. Very excited. We exceeded our goal, but there's some churches that have made 5. So it really doesn't matter. They cost between $50 and $75 a bucket. And we just bought a lot of our stuff at the Dollar Tree, which has allowed us to go from 100 to 130 buckets. So we're doing flood buckets, webinars. We are encouraging sustainable churches, and we're trying to, spread the word that we care about our neighbors. So we have the scan QR code right here. If you're not signed up, please scan that and fill it out, and you'll get more information. It doesn't commit you. It just helps you get more information. So we have 73 churches registered and 500 buckets made. We have a long way to go, but we have until next annual conference, but it'll be here before you know it. So we need a lot more churches and a lot more buckets made. We have lots of resources at our website. So go on over to flumc.org/creationcare, and you'll see all of the Creation Care resources, plus the Buckets of Hope Challenge is there as well. And if you're done, some churches are actually complete. We have a form for you to fill out, and that way we can get feedback on the challenge and also know how many buckets you made, because that's really important for disaster recovery. If a storm hits, they know exactly where those buckets are, and we can get you the labels. So go ahead and scan that, or you can see that on our website as well. And our next webinar is going to be August 6th at 11 a.m. We have partnered with the Clio Institute, and it's going to be a really incredible webinar. We're going to have John Morales, which is a meteorologist. He's gotten pretty famous. Susan Glickman is a friend of mine, and she is a partner with Clio. And Dr. Nia Pathak is going to be, I'm sure I butchered that, but Pathak probably. She is going to be there to talk about health and extreme weather. So you can register by scanning this QR code. Or if you've already registered for the Bucket of Hope webinar through the FLUMC, I'm going to send that out as well. So this is a little bit sooner than we usually have done them in the month, and it's at 11 a.m. instead of 6 p.m. So make a note, and you won't want to miss this one. It's going to be really great. So thank you very much.
Kara, thank you. What a great webinar. I am so excited. Those are really like high level people. This is big time. So very, very cool. And now just a couple of quick updates to finish up. The announcements we have are there is Global Ministries Earthkeeper training coming up in the fall, October 2nd through October 5th. This one, though, is way out Pacific Northwest, Washington State. So, of course, if you are able to go to it, that would be awesome. There's an email address there, environment@mumcmission.org. And you can get the information, and they do cover a lot of the expenses, but you do have to cover your flight to get there. But they cover a lot of your room and board and course materials and things. So if you can manage the flight, this might be for you because it's a wonderful training opportunity. If this is just too much for you to wrap your head around, always available is climate ambassador training through an ecumenical organization called Blessed Tomorrow. It's an arm of an organization called Eco America. And this is a training that you can do by yourself, or you can do it with a group, or like that you facilitate on your own, or you can do it through the organization. They offer all these different ways of doing this training so that they've made it as flexible as possible. And there's even a United Methodist specific one that you can select. So if you can't quite do the Earthkeeper in the fall, this is something you can do. And I really recommend that people do both because they have a little bit of overlap, but they're different enough that you would find both of them very, very valuable. And of course, this is one you could do tomorrow if you wanted. You don't have to wait until October. Okay, and then I should have a slide here that isn't showing, but I did want to say another word about the program for next month, which is with Sarah Nussel. So the 4th Tuesday of the month, let me quickly pull up the date for that since my slide didn't come up for some reason. Want to make sure I'm sharing. It'll be, of course, at noon, like we always are. The 4th Tuesday is August 26th at 12 o'clock. She will be sharing about the season of creation, which runs from September 1st until October 4th, and giving us resources, taking us through all the great things that the United Methodist Creation Justice Movement have put together for us. There are other ones out there as well, But I did want to highlight this specifically to say September 1st is really close in church planning. So if you are hoping your pastor is going to do anything with you for Season of Creation, make sure you're talking with them about it now. You're probably too late. I see CJ smiling. He's like, yeah, right. It's a little too late. But
Let me say
it's
this, Sarah.
yep,
It's got lots of material for children and youth also. So
yep.
that might be a little more flexible. And what I plan to do is get Candace to talk with me, and we'll tell you what happened in our churches in September 2024. Because
Excellent.
both went in, it was under the fig tree, and we had our fig tree, and I mean, we went in big time, and it bore fruit, pun intended.
Yes, and there's so much more to do than strictly worship related experiences, as Sarah said, with children's programming or programming that's outside of Sunday morning. There are so many opportunities. So these are great resources. I know Kathy Orban had her hand up at one point. I see Ray has his. Kathy, did you still have a question?
Oh, I was just going to comment on the alligator Alcatraz because I went there, and for some of the protests they've been having out there. There's a gal named Betty Osceola who is in charge of the Miccosukee tribe there, and she asked everybody to come last Saturday without signs, just to come and pray and be with the universe, because it was getting so bad because people are so unhappy about what's happening. So I just thought it was a wonderful approach, and she just asked everybody to come out and pray with her and the people that live out in the Everglades. So, but I went a few weeks ago, so I just wanted to say that was quite the experience. So thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think you bring up such an important point that as people of faith, one of the most important things we can do is that very peaceful, non-threatening form of protest called prayer vigils.
Yes,
And
yes.
gather people, pray, and be seen saying that this is something that you don't think is right. And I really appreciate that approach very much.
Yeah.
And Ray, you have a question?
Yeah, just a comment, a question. One thing I'm doing with my creation care team at my church, which is Sebastian United Methodist Church, is getting them involved as volunteers with other groups. And this is we have this county-wide Treasure Coast cleanup weekend where we go out and we have grabbers, and it's well funded by a lot of different sponsors. It's politically neutral, and we're picking up rubbish and plastic bags. I'm working with a big organization called the Environmental Learning Center, which is also well funded, and they have a big education to educate children about the environment. So we want to join allies. So my question is, I know most of you are not in Treasure Coast, so you couldn't attend, but this concept, if anybody else is using this concept of joining other groups, allies, and if so, do you have like a t-shirt at all, like a creation care t-shirt? You could say, I'm a member of the creation care team at Sebastian United Methodist Church, or whatever the church name is. Do you have a t-shirt like that? Or do anybody use this kind of modalities in with their creation care team?
Kara wants to go ahead and take that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of us do, honestly. We created a t-shirt for our team a while back. We adopted the street next to our church, which happens to be around a lake. And so we do 4 cleanups a year there. But I love the idea of partnering with other groups so you don't have to do all the planning. And we've done things with Sustainable Tallahassee and Sierra Club and Surfrider and a lot of different groups. So yeah, it's a great idea, and good job getting it going where you are.
Yeah, it's a great way to do it. And not only does it take some of the work off of you because they're already doing these things and you jump on board, but it also shows the church in such a good light. Often these community organizations don't see churches doing environmental things, and they get excited when they see that you care about it. So it's a really good way of being an ambassador for this cause and for our churches. So we encourage that 100%. Okay, unless anybody else has any questions or comments to add, I'd like to call on CJ to offer a closing prayer.
Grateful to close our time out together. I also want to just acknowledge that That's the kind of the nature of the church, is to work together. We haven't lived into that very well as a church throughout history, but that is our nature, especially as Methodists. Would you please pray with me? God, we are grateful for all who have come before us, and the ways that we are connected to them and the ways that they have nurtured this planet in which we all live. We are grateful for the torch that has been passed to us for such a time as this, to do ministry, to walk humbly with you, and to do justice in ways that express your kindness and your love in this world. Help us as we walk in your garden to direct people to you, to be reminded of your love for one another, even when we disagree, and to seek out wisdom from others. We pray all of these things and so much more as we entrust ourselves to the ministry to which you've called us. And this through Jesus we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Man.
Thank you so much, everyone, for being with us today. And I hope we'll see you next month talking about Season of Creation.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Namaste, Ray. I want to make sure I remember to save the chat.
Save the chat.
Facebook.
Oh, thank you. Let's see.